But I want to make it clear, I wasn't then, nor am I now, articulating a policy change.
If some of these big things that you say on the world stage keep getting walked back.
What's getting walked back?
In the past, we've seen Russia use these kinds of diplomatic negotiations as a way to delay a military regroup.
President Biden is not walking back any of the things that his entire administration walked back last week. Peter Doocy and Biden had a pretty fun exchange. Also, some updates on the Ukrainian peace talks going on with Russia. Do we believe them or do we not? They're going on right now in Istanbul, Turkey. Also, California has some brand new COVID laws in the works, and holy cow, are they terrifying. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is March 29th, the year of our Lord 2022. New you in 22. Get that started, because I feel like you got like a couple days left to start the new you. Or like the old me. That's fine too. President Biden didn't walk back any of the statements that his entire administration walked back. We'll get to some of those clips. But I want to start off, still polling shows that people are still very much paying attention to this story. So I want to just briefly hit on what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. Are they negotiating? What do those negotiations look like? Is there ceasefires? Is Ukraine taking land back? All of those answers are maybe, we don't really know. This is from the Washington Post. Ukrainian forces have reclaimed control of a few small fronts in the country's north, officials said on Monday, as Russia appears to be directing its fiercest attacks on besieged areas of the country's east and south, including Mariupol. That is that coastal city that would give Russia a land path to Crimea, and it would be all bad if that were to entirely fall. Russia claims they took it over, then Ukraine claims they took it back. This is back and forth. It's continuing to go on there. As the war grinds into its second month, Ukrainian and Russian delegations were set to meet in Turkey on Tuesday for in-person negotiations. Kremlin officials have delivered icy remarks ahead of the talks, however, dampening prospects of a meaningful outcome. Lavrov said, doesn't matter what Lavrov said. I thought this was interesting. This was on CNBC, I think, Squawk Box. Had a person talking, I forget the gal's name, but she seemed pretty in tune with how Russia operates. This has been my argument, position, I guess. Whenever Russia proposes something like peace talks or a corridor for humanitarian passage through to the rest of Europe for people to get out of Ukraine, turns out to be a big fat freaking nothing burger. And it seemed like this commentator on CNBC, was preaching a similar tune. Check this out.
Unfortunately, the peace talks between Ukraine and Russia so far haven't produced any tangible results or breakthroughs, as both sides have said. In the past, we've seen Russia use these kinds of diplomatic negotiations as a way to delay a military regroup, meaning they have taken some very, very heavy losses in Ukraine. Some estimates suggest they've lost over 15,000 troops, 7 commanding officers. These are huge losses in military terms. And now they're looking for an opportunity to take some time out so they can regroup militarily, and these talks could just be a smokescreen for that. And the reason I say that with some skepticism is because we really haven't seen any goodwill on the side of Russia. As they're engaging in this peace talks, they're still increasing their bombardment of the rest of Ukraine and just intensifying what is already a really, really dire humanitarian situation.
So the main point she was making there, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying it's an interesting point and seems to be in line with what continues to be happening whenever Russia brings up these peace talks or humanitarian corridors, is that Russia sometimes uses these peace talks. I'm going to stop using the finger quotes. The peace talks to regroup their military. If you heard her in the beginning, they have lost massive amounts of troops. I think they're like close to 20,000 last time I checked, probably close to 25, which is great. That's an entire basketball stadium. That's more than a basketball stadium in especially a lot of big areas. It's like the Staples Center and a half, with Russian troops now dead because Putin decided he wanted to go take Ukraine. Morale has been substantially lowered among all of the Russian soldiers, it would appear, because they're sending generals to the front lines, and the generals are getting killed. So not great going for Russia currently. Mr. Putin not having a great go at it. This is from Reuters. Russian and Ukrainian delegations met face-to-face for the first time in weeks on Tuesday in Istanbul, Turkey, to discuss possible ceasefires. Let me see if there's anything else in this particular thing. Nope. So basically, they're thinking that Russia might lay back on the bombing of Kyiv while these peace talks are happening, but that remains to be seen. I want to get to this. Joe Biden doesn't walk back some statements. I love reading the comment section. You guys are great. Alan, show me some love. Yeah, how about this? Thanks, Alan. Thanks for watching. Have a great morning. Any more comments? Geez, wow. A lot of Let's Go Brandons, a lot of FJBs. So, yeah, there's that. Joe Biden had a press conference yesterday. So if you missed the show yesterday, we talked about Joe Biden saying that Putin cannot stay the leader of Russia or whatever it is, which seems to be a nod at potentially upending the Russian regime, which would not be good and not look good on the world stage. Immediately after, pretty much everybody that works in the White House, tangentially to the White House, or seen the White House said, no, that's not what he's saying. We're not advocating for a regime change. Well, President Biden took questions yesterday, shockingly, by the way. He's been taking a couple more questions. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, you want to be able to question the President of the United States, and we've given him a lot of heat for not taking questions. President Trump would go out and stand for like an hour outside of the helicopter and just take questions from anybody who wanted to ask one. Joe Biden does not do that. And the more he answers questions, the less I think he might want to answer questions, not for his own political sake, but for the American security as a whole in general. The more he talks, it seems like the worse off we get. But here's President Biden answering some questions yesterday on whether or not he's going to walk back these statements that he made over the weekend. I see that there's a couple thousand of you watching it, and I would really appreciate it if you just click the little like button and click the little share button. Either or, doesn't matter what. It doesn't cost you anything, but it actually really does help us out continue to keep pushing this stuff and stay on the air. Without further ado, here's Biden answering questions about whether or not he's going to walk back the walk-backable statements that he made over the weekend.
What you said. Thank you, sir. Do you believe what you said, that Putin can't remain in power? Or do you now regret saying that because your government has been trying to walk that back? Did your words complicate matters?
Well, you asked three different questions. I'll answer them all. Number one, I'm not walking anything back. The fact of the matter is I was expressing the moral outrage I felt toward the way Putin is dealing and the actions of this man. Just brutality. Half the children in Ukraine. I just come from being with those families. But I want to make it clear. I wasn't then, nor am I now, articulating a policy change. I was expressing the moral outrage that I feel, and I make no apologies for it.
Personal feelings, sir. Your personal feelings?
My personal feelings.
So he's trying to not walk back the statement again that everybody that works for him directly and tangentially have already walked back. But he's saying it was a personal feeling. It was my personal feelings. That's what I meant. Hey, Mr. President, when you talk to the world stage, a global international stage, for one of the biggest events, biggest military events since World War II, a lot of people are saying, you don't get to talk about your feelings. You probably should stick to what you actually mean in the time and not have a lot of confusion around it. But Peter Doocy, we like Peter Doocy. He's a fun guy. Asked a couple questions too, and the president didn't like them very much. Check this clip out.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I know you're going to ask a really nice question.
Well, it's an important question,
No,
I think. Are you worried that other leaders in the world are going to start to doubt that America is back if some of these big things that you say on the world stage keep getting walked back?
What's getting walked back?
It made it sound like, just in the last couple days, it sounded like you told U.S. troops they were going to Ukraine. It sounded like you said it was possible the U.S. would use a chemical weapon, and it sounded like you were calling for regime change in Russia, and we know...
None of the three occurred.
None of the three occurred?
None of the three.
Mr. President?
You interpret the language that way. I was talking to the troops. We're talking about helping train the troops that are the Ukrainian troops that are in Poland. That's what the context. I sat there with those guys for a couple hours. That's what we talked about.
So when you said you're going to see when you're there, you were not intending to
I was referring to meeting with and talking with the Ukrainian troops who are in Poland.
And when you said a chemical weapon use by Russia would trigger a response in kind.
It will trigger a significant response.
What does that mean?
I'm not going to tell you. Why would I tell you? You got to be silly.
The world wants to know.
The world wants to know a lot of things. I'm not telling them what the response would be. Then Russia knows the response.
So that's the president getting hammered by Peter Doocy saying, hey, you said these ridiculous things. Any chance you want to clarify any of that? He said, no, I'm not going to tell you. I don't know. Maybe that's a good strategy. Who knows? Maybe it's an effective strategy to keep people on their toes. But at the same time, there's a lot of people out there that would make the argument of, hey, maybe we should set some red lines of, hey, if you do this, we're going to do this. A lot of things going around cable news. I don't know if you saw Sean Hannity's show last night. He said some pretty harsh things. I don't know if we want to go entirely there. But, you know, a lot of things up in the air. Not really entirely sure how to handle all of this. But the fact is, the president not walking back any of those statements, even after everybody who works in the White House walked back all of those statements. I know a lot of you don't live in California, and I know a lot of you follow me on the Instagram machine. I had a hilarious reel like last week. It's like Captain Jack Sparrow. Dang it, I keep saying I was going to show it on here. It's Captain Jack Sparrow as his ship is sinking. That ship was California, and he just takes a big old mighty step onto Texas. And he represented all the people that made California is what it is, and now moving to places like Texas. So there is that. But California has a couple new things coming down the pike. And I know that a lot of you don't live in California, but be careful of this. I think I go into a California story like once a week, once every other week. Because if you're not careful, this stuff is going to happen where you live. Numerous fast-tracked bills in the California legislature invoked forced COVID-19 vaccinations, which I was given some insight on the term vaccinations last week by a really great guy, Dr. Let me get through this first, then I'll explain what he told me that I thought was fascinating. For children, COVID-19 vaccinations, shots, jabs, for school requirements allowing minor children to make their own vaccine decisions away from a parent, requiring healthcare staff to complete cultural humility training to provide trans-inclusive healthcare, and another would force law enforcement officials to enforce public health orders. LOL's Nope, SB 871 would require forced vaccinations on student enrollment and would require all school-age children up to 17 to get the COVID-19 shot in order to attend school or be in childcare. SB 866, minors' consent for vaccination will allow kids 12 to 17 to take the COVID-19 shot without parental consent. Holy moly, this is going on in California. Basically, if you don't have the COVID-19 shot, you can't do anything if you're under the age of 18. And if you're also under the age of 18 and above the age of 12, you can make your own healthcare decisions. I've said this, and I've said this again. This is not a charitable thing to say, probably. But kids are dumb. That's seems like a reality that we should all come to terms with. There's a reason they can't vote. You know why? Because, like I said, kids are dumb. And that's no offense to kids. I was once a dumb kid. You were once a dumb kid. But kids are dumb. And 12-year-olds probably shouldn't be making any healthcare decision on their own. You know why? Because kids are dumb. But California is trying to make it so that you don't even have to get parental consent to go get a medical shot in your arm for a disease that won't kill you, statistically. Won't even really make you sick, statistically. But not only is California trying to mandate the COVID shot, they're trying to make it available to anybody who wants it, who can't make up their mind for their own because they're not old enough to do so. So that is that. I could go on and on and on about that. Let me see if there's any comments that we can read that are appropriate that we can bring on. Somebody says, how is this guy still in office? I think you're referring to Governor King Gavin Newsom. Yeah, that's nobody quite knows. So many people leaving California, says Linda. That seems to be the case. A lot of people that I know are leaving California. Geez, I would love to leave California. Try and convince my wife with me. Maybe we can leave. But yeah, a bunch of people are continuing to weigh in here that California should not be the benchmark for the rest of the country. With that, I know we know we're a little short today, but things happen, and we had some technical difficulties earlier in the show this morning that caused us to run a little bit late for running early. But I got to go catch a flight in about an hour. We will be back here, same time, same place, in the dingy bunker tomorrow morning with anything else that comes out of these peace talks in Istanbul, anything the president says. I feel like Kamala Harris hasn't stepped to a mic in a while, so maybe she'll say something dumb on a microphone, and we'll get to talk about it tomorrow. We will see. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for tuning in to Daily Caller Live. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless America.